So hello guys, welcome back to P for Politics, and today we are going to look at the connection between politics and economy. Last time we did a bit of political economy in the previous video, but that was just a segment. But today I'm going to focus more on understanding the relationship between politics and economics. Um, this study of politics and economy is known as political economy, and this idea was just brought up by among many because the ideas were drawn by those who came first with these ideas, like number one, Antonio de Monclús, who was crucial in coming up with the three arms of government. We had Adam Smith in his book Wealth of Nations. We had John Stuart, among others. They try to explain to us the importance of politics or government in establishing a stable economy. Um, we are told, according to the research I did, is that governments are mandated with the ability of managing an economy. So the the government that we elect, that's why governments or each regime is its success, or they are evaluated, or their scorecards, or what we call the key performance indicators, are mostly directed towards the economy. How do they perform economic wise? Last time I did a video about the fluctuations of the Kenyan currency, and I told you a friend of mine associated the these five governments that have so far been elected in Kenya according to how the Kenyan shilling has lost against the greenback. That's the US dollar. So that being the currency fluctuation being part of the economy. So today we dig deeper. What's the connection between politics and economics? And number one, I saw there are different types in which governments or depending on how government use those styles affect the economy. And we saw this from the four types of what we call the control systems. Number one, we came up with the capitalist, where private individuals or entities drive the governments. They actually own a lot of things and they run the free markets. We had the next thing, which was socialism, where they say that it is the mandate of the community to run the government, or to ensure that the resources are distributed as expected. Number four, this was brought by Karl Marx, who felt that the communism was not efficient and effective in ensuring that people get, or the resources are distributed as they are. So he came up with another way in which government should manage its affairs. So he suggested what we call communism. That's resources should be driven by the government, that the government has the mandate of doing things. So there are different things that the government does to ensure that there is economic stability. When there is political instability, then the economy tends to dwindle, the economy tends to weaken, because no investor will work somewhere where it is hostile, or the environment is not conducive enough. So there are many things that the government does that affect the economy. Number one, we have something called the monetary and fiscal policy. This affects how the government try to manage the country during hard economic times, during the recession and depression times cycle of the economic cycle. So these policies ensure that the government is stable enough. Secondly, we have something called food security. uh, Kenya last the past 2 years, that is 2023 and 2022, as Kenyans we had a hard economic time because we never had abundant food. So this resulted to high inflation in terms of food, because remember now, because we could not produce our own food, we had to outsource or go to international markets. So, and once we went to international markets, um, the cost of importing became very high, and even it made the country to be, that's why we also had protests. So this resulted to even political, we did not reach that point of political instability, but we had a lot of property being destroyed. We had a lot of industry shut down due to um, the, 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 the chaos that were caused by this protest, in a way of addressing the to address what we call the cost of living. Due to this food insecurity, if the government cannot provide enough food, this is automatically going to affect the economy, because once something is scarce, it becomes expensive once it's gotten, and once it's become expensive, then people tend to hike prices due maybe to logistic issues, maybe to because we are outsourcing from other countries internationally, and we have a lot of issues with international sourcing. We do have delays, we do have currency fluctuations. All these can result to food prices, or uh, having fluctuation in food prices. This will result to inflation, and inflation is not a good show for any country. Is not a good thing. This food insecurity can make a country to be unstable. You can saw even that one, according to the last video I did. I showed you how inflation resulted to the Kenyan shilling weakening. The third thing about that government does to ensure that the country is good economically, how politics shapes economies through the trade, what we call global trade. Kenya's presence in the global trade mostly can be affected by politics, maybe by politicians, what we bring, what we sell. Sometimes we are involved in what we call counter trade, where we because some countries buy from us, we buy from them. Sometimes if we do not agree with those countries, the politicians, if the politicians do not go well with those countries, they might sabotage that relationship, and this might affect the stability or the economic relationship between different countries. Number four, about what a country can do to ensure that the country is stable, is having good labor supply and demand, and also the labor crisis. That's why the government is investing a lot in education, because um, through educations we can have a lot of both skilled and unskilled employee. If we do not have enough employees, we'll have to have this employment from outside. The same way you had a doctor strike. Once this doctor strike, the government faced a crisis that it cannot provide health care in public hospitals. So what did it threatened doctors by saying that it had to come up with doctors from abroad, but the cost of bringing in these doctors from outside, you saw how expensive it was. So sometimes it's better to retain the this also, when we try to get expertise or employees from outside, we tend to pay them a lot of money. This might affect the economy, because the money that we are using will be a lot to ensure that these people get uh, best services. The next part, which is number 5, is the GDP, the gross domestic something I've forgotten, but I'll put there. Uh, this is a net of all economic activities in the country, and these politics can shape this by coming up with policies like, how do we license those who come up with the new businesses, how do we regulate them. So if politicians form good policies, we can have more people investing, and we can have more people doing business, thus increasing the GDP, which will be advantageous to us. But if these politicians uh, tend to interfere or come up with unconducive policies, or these politicians maybe keep on attacking leaders. For example, I'm sorry to use this example, we had that one who was told mambo matatu. If the president or these politicians go on threatening business people in the country, you see that one might affect, because it is going to reduce investor confidence in the country, and this is likely to impact on the economy, because those people come with a lot of muscle, a lot of resources, which can support the economy. Number 3 is about the resource distribution. So, when I started doing this topic about politics, when I actually changed from Terra Samkunha, that was TSC, to INP, sometimes I did a topic to address the inefficiency of democracy. And I say that we say democracy is the rule of the majority. And I asked, what about the rule of the minority? I gave an example that there's some counties, because we were not lucky enough, or we do not have enough numbers to elect our own leaders. Sometimes we are neglected, and because we are few, we cannot be able to receive those. We cannot be able to make those numbers, so that we can actually do those changes, or have our own leaders who can bring development to where we feel it's not. uh, you find that we are somehow neglected or somehow discriminated. Actually, this happened to some counties, to some areas, even actually my area ward back at home. You find that we elected an MC, and he said, because you never elected me, there's nothing I'm going to do to you people. So if these resources are not distributed enough, those people are going to somehow to get tired, and this equally maybe contributes to the economy. um, the next thing is disaster management. So I've given that the previous point I've given about politicians. The politicians that we elect, they might determine how resources are distributed. If you find some stupid politicians who are immature to understand that we are in a democratic country, and that they do not bring the bitterness of elections to development, I think we might be in a good position, because resources will not be misappropriated, resources will not be misused for the sake of their own interests, of their own bitterness. That they are going to only assist those people who assisted them, that they are only going to assist those people that assist them. I think this is what maybe Uh, um, if I'm not misquoted, like Mutai Ngonyi said last time that Kikuyu should appreciate Ruto for what he did because he has given the Kikuyus a lot. This is because they are called they're the most shareholders. Um, for me, I believe we should share resources equally. So if these politicians decide that we are going to give our own people resources, we all pay taxes, and the bad economic decisions or bad economic times do not only affect the Azimio members or those people from Wajako, those people from David Mwaura, but they affect us as old Kenyans. When unga was that expensive, we all bought, whether you're a Kikuyu, a Kisii, someone from Mombasa, Garissa, wherever, we all suffered the same fate. So I believe politicians should ensure that these resources are shared equally. The final part is disaster management. A good country or a good regime should be able to manage how resources are managed during the disaster management. Currently, we have rains going on, and this I'm going to explain it in three terms. For what we have passed for the past 4 years, number one, we had the pandemic. Actually, the pandemic put us in a lot of risk, put us in a tough economic condition. We had to use a lot of the government, that time the decision making or now they are going to disperse or are going to get money because we are all on a lockdown, and the country or the government was in charge of taking care of those who were affected by the pandemic. So we had a lot of money spent on there. And if we had a bad government or a bad political system, then a country during disaster may end up just even being destroyed totally. You see, um, secondly, this also was during the food crisis. We had Kenyans complaining, we need subsidy for food, we cannot manage that food. How does the government manage that? Then we have the rains, the heavy rains that are raining. How does the government manage to ensure that these resources are utilized well? So I don't. I've tried just to explain as much as I can uh, in those ways that I've tried. But we can always do better. We can also do good research and always return. So thank you. Do subscribe and let's meet next time. Thank you again. Welcome back.